Hey guys, this is Carrie, and I'm gonna be doing a review on Avengers Endgame. Now, I'll start off by saying that this is my first YouTube video, so please be, don't be as harsh on the comments, okay? Because it's my first time doing this, first time doing anything like this before. So, you know, be nice. Secondly, I want to start by saying that I am by no means a comic book buff or comic book pro or whatever have you. I am a fan. I do read the comics, but I'm no expert at all whatsoever. I don't claim to be anything like that. So this is simply me venting to, you know, the people like us, the people who have seen these movies, who have been invested in these movies since day one, okay? And when we saw the events what we saw, we needed someone to talk to about it. For me, I don't have as many people to talk to about it, but I feel like just sharing my feelings and my theories is just a way of venting and getting it out, and you know, just kind of connecting with other people like me who have been so invested in these movies for so long, and just, you know, just to bounce ideas off of each other, bounce thoughts off of each other, bounce you know, things have happened, and share ideas and things. That's basically what I'm trying to do here. So I have broken up the movie into 3 acts. Act 1 is, well, I'll do it as we go because I feel like it's, you know, it was clever of me to do. So, all right. So I guess where I'll start is, well, I really don't want to make it too long because I'm really I have a time frame here, but just want to throw some things out there. You know, what I said before, I started this because of, you know, trying to connect with other people, but also because you know, I've seen things on the internet, and, you know, I've gotten ideas from other people on, you know, reviews and their thoughts. And my goal was to eventually make a YouTube channel. So I just want to, you know, put that out there that, you know, this is something that me and my family have thought about doing, just simply because, you know, we're nerds, and it seems like that's what us nerds nowadays are doing. I mean, not all of them, obviously, but just want to you know, throw it out there. That's also my goal, is to kind of like, this is where it starts. Like, this, you got to start somewhere. So this is me starting. Okay, so let's go ahead and hash out into this because I really don't want to make it too long. But there's a lot of ground I need to cover. So let's go ahead and jump right in and get started. Act 1 is what I call the survivors. Obviously it starts, as you guys know. Oh, also, this is spoilers. If you have not seen the movie, stop right now. Don't watch this. But if you have seen the movie, obviously let's keep going. Because big spoilers, and I don't ever want to spoil anything for anyone. So just want to make that known. This does have spoilers. It's basically the whole movie. So, you know. Alright, so back to what I was saying. Start Act 1. It starts off with Hawkeye. You know, obviously, the very beginning. And we kind of we know that he's going to be a part of it, obviously, because of the trailers. But we don't know, you know, what happened, kind of. And we kind of want to fill that gap. So I feel like that's where they wanted to start, is with his family and their disappearance. There's nothing really to touch base about that on, simply for the fact that they covered that ground. They covered, you know, what we were thinking and already knew, kind of. It also introduces him as to, you know, how he became and been a part of the Endgame. So, and then we cut to Tony and Nebula in space. So this, I just want to say that Marvel did a really good job of pairing characters together who you wouldn't think would be paired together. So Tony and Nebula, 2 opposite people who you never would have thought would be paired together in this end of the world type thing. So I really liked how they did that. Two totally have not been together for the whole movies type characters, and you see them, they're sitting here playing the football game where you flick the paper into the, but it just breaks down it kind of like humanizes them in a way. Like you could picture yourself, it's relatable. You can picture yourself doing this kind of thing, just trying to pass the time by. So it shows them doing that. And Nebula, I mean, if you think about it, like, she's been the bad guy for a very long time. So to see her be showing a little bit of compassion towards Tony in any kind of way, it's kind of baffling. Like, why would she do that? She's been the bad guy the whole time. So I just really like how they kind of switched her into like the Nebula that we know now. Because it shows her, lifting Tony up and not just laying on the ground, obviously. So I liked how they did that too, and how she kind of changes her whole character dynamic. Tony's message, obviously, we know he's sending a message to Pepper, this might be my last day alive. And, that's obviously touching. That's in the previews. We've seen it. Not saying it's not, a big part of the movie, but it's touching. And it kind of also gives that humanization, or I don't even think that's a word, but humanizes us. Like, that's something that we would do, relatable. All right, and so obviously, as we know, he gets rescued. I saw this coming. I knew she was going to be the one to save him. I knew Captain Marvel was going to be the one to save him. And obviously we know, if you've watched the movies, I don't want to say obviously because I don't know if you've watched them all, but we know at the end of the last movie, or Captain Marvel, it shows her coming into the Avengers. So we know that she's part of that because of that. So if you've seen that movie, that kind of bridges that gap as to where does she come from, kind of thing. All right, so the next part of Act 1 is the fallout. The reason why I say this is because it's like everybody just disperses. The group kind of has another fallout, kind of like Civil War. I was really mad about this part, and I'm just going to touch base on this because, I thought the whole reason why they got together in the last movie was to defeat Thanos. Like, that's the reason why Tony called up, Cap and was like, oh, we need you. Like, and then for the fact that Tony reacted the way he did, it really disappointed me. Like, he got mad. He like, where were you? And, I needed you. I was down here doing my business. Like, I was here. Like, what are you talking about? And I don't know if that had to do with the fact that he was up in space and was starvation and dehydration and being separated from everybody. I don't know. But I just found it kind of rude, disrespectful that he kind of like just went at Cap like that. But I think that's the reason why he did it. So that kind of like makes the fallout for Tony. And so the other group decides, okay, well, we're gonna do this. We're gonna kill Thanos. Like, we know where he's at. Well, Nebula knows where he's at. Or they start bouncing ideas like, where is this guy at? And Nebula's like, oh, I know where he's at. Let's go kill him. So, or go get the stones and snap. So they go and meet Thanos. Obviously, the small team go together. And then they found out when they get there that, oh, the stones are not there. And I feel like we should have realized this when we saw the gauntlets in the other movie, and maybe even in the clips for this movie. Like, well, maybe they didn't show it, obviously, but the stones weren't in there, and we didn't know it until we saw the movie that they weren't in there. But so they found out that the stones have been destroyed and can't undo what's been done. And so Thor, he just, gets mad and just mows down Thanos and knocks his head off his block, basically. And Rocket was like, why'd you do that? I don't know. It was like, me personally as a viewer, I'm like, I thought that's the whole reason why we were there. Why are you asking why, basically? But so everybody's like, basically, what the heck do we do now? Like, what do we do now? So fast forward, to planet Earth, obviously, 5 years later. Everyone is doing their own thing. Everybody's separated. Tony, obviously, is out in the woods with his family. Now family. And Captain Marvel, Rocket, War Machine, they're all doing their own thing. And Black Widow is at Avengers HQ, you know, holding the fort down. So, Captain America's doing this PTSD group where he's kind of, you know, talking to these people, asking them, you know, what do we do now? We need to move on. And Black Widow is kind of refusing to let her guard down. She's refusing to back off. You know, she doesn't want to give up. She wants to jump. She's ready to jump right into the action. So I feel like they don't touch a lot of base on this, obviously to save time. But I mean, I just feel like that, you know, she was underrated. You know, she was in there, and she was in there all the way, basically. So, all right, so the next part is that we see, obviously, you know, Scott Lang's appearance and revelation of, like, what the heck is going on. That's the next step. So, obviously, the rat on the keyboard goes across the little van time machine quantum realm. And I guess people would say that, like, this is bad writing, but no, I mean, you gotta have something happen. Like, you gotta, you know, something's got to make it happen. And I feel like Ant-Man is also one of those characters that Marvel kind of, like, underrates, because he was a big deal in the Marvel comics as far as the Avengers go, and as far as Endgame, or, you know, the fights go. He was big, and which is kind of ironic, but I just feel like they played him out to be this just guy that was thrown into there when he's really not. I mean, he's got a lot to offer and to bring to the table. So Act 2 is the plan. That's what I call it. So obviously Scott, you know, finds his daughter. She's aged 5 years later. He doesn't know what the heck is going on, and she obviously has to explain it to him. As we know. So then he goes and finds the Avengers and proposes a plan for the quantum realm, a time machine, which he doesn't want to call it that at first, but so they go and put this plan onto Tony, because, you know, how are we going to pull this off without one of the smartest guys in the whole group? But Tony has now a family, and he has a daughter, and so he's like, no go on the plan. He's like, no, I'm not about this. This is not going to happen. You know, I've got what I wanted, kind of selfish kind of thing. I mean, he obviously knows that they want everybody back. He wants everybody back, but he's kind of like, you know, I've got what I wanted, and I can't do anything about it. So he's like, you know, you guys can either stay or go, basically. And this is what got me. He was making the time travel device the whole time, or just after he saw them come up? That I guess that wasn't really made clear to me. I don't know. But so he was actually already thinking about doing this, you know. So why would he not agree to doing it with them? But then we see Tony. You know, he's putting his daughter to bed and all of that, and he sees the picture of the kid, which we all know is Peter and Spider-Man. And I feel like Tony at that time makes the decision, it's probably obvious, that he makes the decision to sacrifice himself for the better good, because his job was, the kid was not supposed to be there. Peter was not supposed to be part of the whole, what happened in Infinity. So obviously he feels kind of responsible for his death. So the next part after that is gathering the team up. So Natasha, Black Widow, goes and gets Clint, Hawkeye, which is now Ronan. He's slashing people up in Tokyo and all this other stuff. So he's gone crazy in the past 5 years after his family disappeared. And then Ant-Man and the team go get Hulk. So they put the idea on him as well. But Hulk is kind of like Professor Hulk at this point. He's kind of like this arrogant, I don't know, version of the Hulk that none of us are used to seeing, or at least I'm not used to seeing. But they put the plan on him. He's in for it. And then Hulk and Rocket go get Thor in Asgard, the new Asgard, which is this, place up in, looks like Scotland or something like that. So, but as we all know, Thor has not been good to him as what we have known and seen him in the past. He's got this long beard about this long, drinks beer all the time, and he's got a belly out this big, like he's pregnant almost. So yeah, it's not what we're used to seeing, especially because the last movie he brought the hammer, not the hammer obviously, but he brought his wrath down on the last movie. He went from this, like, the goat of the whole Infinity to this fat looking bum from the 7-Eleven that you see at the store or whatnot. So then they have this plan called the Time Heist, which I think is so funny in its own self. But so it's basically 10 Avengers and 3 teams. But the third team is kind of split up, but they're in the same time frame of 2012. So the plan is to, obviously, they've learned that the stones are destroyed, but what if they were able to go into the quantum realm, use time to steal the stones before Thanos ever stole them? So this is that plan, and I'm going to explain it because it was kind of confusing by each stone mission. And they do kind of run together at the same time, but just for the sake of explaining it to where you can understand it, I did it by stones. So the first one is the Power Stone mission, which is Nebula and War Machine. This is on the planet Morag, which is during Guardians of the Galaxy 1. So Nebula, and for this video, I'm gonna, I guess, key these the same characters into 2 different people. Nebula 1 is obviously the Nebula from the present, the one that we know now, and Nebula 2 is past Nebula. So just for the sake of, like, confusion and back and forth, because it's a lot of her in this, I'm gonna refer them to Nebula 1 and Nebula 2. So Nebula 1 causes Nebula 2 to kind of pick up on her memories. The fact that they're in the same spot, in the same place, kind of messes with her electronic function and all of that stuff. So, which is kind of crazy because, and it kind of jumps back to what we were seeing in the movies as they originally were going on. We see Nebula, like, hanging up on this thing, and he's trying to access her memories. But if you remember, it was because Gamora knew where the Soul Stone was, and that's why he had her kind of hung up. And but this time they find the memories and they hang her up because she's accessing Nebula 1's memories, the present Nebula's 1 memories. And so they find out that Thanos, his plan has worked, and the Avengers, which he doesn't know yet but will, are trying to stop him from doing what he had done. So that his plan is going to be to mess that up, obviously, because they killed him in the beginning, so they have to have some reason as to why he's, in the end. Okay, so what happens is they catch Nebula. Nebula knocks down Peter right before he goes and gets the Power Stone from the little ball that ended up being the Power Stone inside. because Nebula grabbed it, and that War Machine, they were together. War Machine did the Pym juice, which I probably didn't explain that before, but the Pym juice is what gets them back, and they have one chance and one time to do it right. So he does the Pym juice, he goes back. But the fact that Nebula 2 and Nebula 1's brain functions or their sensor or whatnot have you interferes, she's not able to zap back. And so they capture her and use her and all that stuff. So just keep in mind that Nebula 2 is now going to be on the side of the Avengers. Alright, so the next one is the Reality Stone mission, which is the ether from Thor the Dark World.
They're all up top.
And this is the team of Thor and Rocket. And they're in Asgard. So, key points in this is that Thor is kind of like going through this whole thing where he's like trying to figure out who he is, or I don't know, trying to, you know, I guess figure out like what he's supposed to do now. Like he feels like everything is his fault. He feels like he didn't kill Thanos the first time correctly. So he's just, you know, this is his hell, or his, you know, hell on earth, because he messed up. So he's going through this thing, and in the whole movie you're just kind of like, Thor, can you get it together? Like, can we do this? Can we do this? Kind of thing. So he's like battling back and forth. He wants to go get more alcohol because he knows where the wine cellar is and all this stuff. And Rocket's like, no, dude, like, we got to get this together. And then Rocket, obviously, you know, there's one point where he slaps him in the face and like, get it together. We got to do this. But he still beelines out. So Rocket's like, I'm just going to do it myself. He's going to use a device to extract the ether from Jane, who is, you know, the love interest of Thor in the other movies. So during this time, Thor does end up meeting up with his mother, Farah, and she already knows it's not him. She's like, this is my son, but not my son from this time. And it kind of like, for me, this kind of like gave me the goosebumps, because I love it when there's people who know already what's going on and what's happening. I don't know why. It's just, I just found it really cool and amazing how they did that. And it honestly, it was needed, honestly, because Thor needed that kick in the butt to get his shit together. Like, he needed to get this done. And I think seeing his mother for the last time, you know, there's no love like a mother's love. So I feel like your mother's always going to be 100% behind you no matter what. And she was. She saw what he was. And it kind of also, what I've been saying the whole time, makes it relatable. Like, this is stuff that happens in our life. You know, we always go back to, you know, your mom or your help or your dad, what have you. So it makes it really humanizes them to get that last goodbye, to get that last, to get that push that you need to get through the rest of the movie. And obviously he gets the hammer, obviously, which is really cool. He goes to grab it, and she's like, it takes a minute. So that was a like big, you know, satisfaction for all of us too, that he was able to get the hammer back, or Mjolnir. So the next one is the Time Stone mission, which is the Hulk, and he's in New York. This is the third team that splits up in the year 2012 in New York City when the Avengers 1 was playing out. The Time Stone was with the Ancient One, as we know, because she's the one that gives the teachings and all of that stuff to Doctor Strange. He's the one that actually has a time stone before all, you know, in the Infinity Wars, as you know. But when Hulk gets there, he finds out that Doctor Strange has not become the Doctor Strange that we know right now. I also found this is another one of those things where she already knew, because she said he's not with us for another 5 years or another however long it is. I find that amazing because she already knew. And it's kind of like when you watch the movies or you know the comics, it's like, duh, you know, of course she already knew. But in his movie, I feel like it doesn't really explain that she already knew. I mean, it probably did, but not so. It was kind of subtle. So I really find it amazing that it was like, oh, she already knew the whole time what was going to happen, what was going to go down in his, you know, type movies and stuff. So I found it really amazing that they put that in there. And obviously she refuses to give him the time stone because that's her, you know, that's what she's supposed to do, is to guard it and not let anybody take it. But Bruce tells her that, you know, well, Doctor Strange gave it up to Thanos, the person who caused all of this. So the reason why I just want to go back, a reason why she doesn't want to give him the stone, not just because it's her duty to protect it, but because she knows that, or she tells him that if he were to take the stone, it's going to, as we know, time jump and time travel is very confusing and very altering of the present or future or present that we are in now. So if you were to do something outside of the past, it would create sort of an alternate future, not the same, which, you know, is confusing in itself, but it kind of obviously makes sense. It's kind of like the butterfly effect. If you kill a butterfly, you know how it goes. Anyway, but he tells her that Doctor Strange handed over the time stone to Thanos, which is, you know, his way of saying we trusted him, or he trusted us enough, not knowing us, to do this. So she then realizes that was the 1 in the 14th million outcomes that he predicted from the last movie. So she basically says, well, he's supposed to be the best of us. So if he does it, it has to be for a good reason. It has to be for mankind. It has to be for something. But the condition is, if she gives him the time stone, he is to return all of the stones back to the exact moment when they were taken. So that is kind of like, you know, keep that in mind. So the fourth one is the Space Stone, the Tesseract. This is where things start going downhill. Not only the fact that all that stuff happened with Thor, because as you know, you're not supposed to meet your past selves or meet anybody from the past because it can alter the future. So that was also stated before, and I did kind of jump over that because, you know, it's my first YouTube video, so probably forgetting a lot of stuff, even though I've written it down 5 pages. But, you know, so the Space Stone mission Tesseract is Iron Man, Ant-Man, and Ant-Man, with also Captain America, because he shows up in parts of theirs as well. So, and this is also in New York City, 2012, when the Avengers were doing their thing. Same place that Hulk was in, too. They kind of split up at the same time when they first landed in there. So, the Avengers, in the movie, the Avengers, they get the Tesseract from Loki, which we know is Thor's brother. And it's in a briefcase. So, Ant-Man makes, after they, you know, done all that stuff, they go down the elevator. Ant-Man makes past Tony in 2012 have a cardiac kind of a heart attack by getting into him and pulling the wire, and he drops the briefcase with the Tesseract, and present time Tony picks it up, goes to walk away, but gets slammed. I just want to recap. Tony drops the briefcase because he gets slammed by the Hulk, and, you know, I'm not going to do everything scene by scene because obviously we know what happened. So, but when he drops it and it opens up, Loki gets the Tesseract and disappears. So that's kind of screwing their whole plan. This is my Loki theory. I want to touch this because I low-key really like Loki. I hate that they do this, but I mean, it happens with any kind of movie that you watch.
That dog is some bull.
Loki was always the bad guy. He was always depicted as, not obviously the bad guy and somebody who cannot be trusted at all. But as his character kind of changed throughout the Thor and the Avengers movies and all, he kind of became a good guy, obviously with his brother, towards the end, and he dies in the last movie from Thanos himself. And we know he's dead because he says, there's no more, you can't do any more tricks, because as we know, Loki's the god of mischief, so this is no trick, so we know he's dead. My Loki theory is that he took the Tesseract and disappeared, and I want to believe that he's still alive, because Loki's a lot smarter than we think he is. Obviously, he's proven that to us many a times. I want to think that he took the Tesseract, disappeared, somehow figured out what the heck was going on, and even though it shows Loki in the Thor part of their mission, he sees them sneaking by the chambers, and he's in the chambers during that time they captured him, and it shows him that. But we also know that Loki has the tendency to make clones of themselves and not really hims. So I want to think that he's still alive, but the next thing that happened, the plan B to the plan B, kind of debunks that. I mean, I just want to believe that it's probably not, though. But, okay, so Captain America's mission goes, array 2 when plan B2 comes, which is when they lost the Tesseract from Loki. So, they kind of have to have a plan B to their plan B. They have to go, so Tony and Captain America come up with this plan to go back in time again into 1970, when his dad and when Hank Pym made the Pym juice, and when the Tesseract was on their base or what have you. So they go back in time and get that. And they get the Space Stone and the Mind Stone. Well, they already had the Mind Stone, because that's what they gave. They gave that to Ant-Man to take back to, the present. But during this time, when they go back in space to the 1970s, Tony meets his father, which is in itself a touching moment, obviously, because he looked up to his father so much, but also had that harsh relationship with his father. So it's kind of like that closure, kind of like that final goodbye. And I love how they did this, how it was one last goodbye, and big pivotal moments in their whole story arcs and their stories. They got to go back and flashback. So that was a touching moment in itself. And he finds out that during this time, Tony finds out that it was the time when his father or his mother was pregnant with him, and his father is all nervous. He got these flowers to give to her, and he's they're talking to each other, and he asks, he tells him that I'm a father as well, Tony, and he asks him, is it hard, is it scary? And he's like, yeah, of course, obviously. And, so they get that little they get that moment as father and son to do that. And I thought that was really nice, or really, really great. But at the end, whenever he's telling him goodbye and whatnot, he says, Tony gives him a hug and he says, thank you. For your service, of course, because obviously, why would you tell the stranger thank you that you've never met before in your life? Yeah, it was really funny. But as he walks away, Howard is getting to his car, and he says, "Do we know that guy?" And he says, "Thank you, Jarvis, for opening the door." So this is kind of like, oh my gosh, this is where Jarvis was a real person, and as you know, Jarvis was the AI of Tony and all of that. So we found out that Jarvis was a real person, a person that was probably a big part of Tony's life growing up. So he just asked him, you know, do we know that guy? And he's like, you know, you meet a lot of people, sir. So it was funny and touching and great all at the same time. So fifth stone is the Mind Stone mission in Captain America. Well, this is where I tell you it kind of runs together. The Mind Stone mission is Captain America in New York City in 2012. Yes, you're going to see my cats be a part of this too. So if you're a cat lover, you're welcome. All right, and so his job is to get the scepter from when they picked it up, which is the Mind Stone. And then this is the scene where Captain fights Captain. And they have a lot of funny parts in this. So, let me see. All right, so yeah, he gets Captain America is in the elevator. Obviously, in the Avengers movie, we find out that the SHIELD operators are actually Hydra people. So, in the movie, in the original movie, they start fighting because Captain America's in the elevator. He's like, you know, I was told to take this from you guys. You know, it's all good. But in the movie, you're expecting. And in this movie, you're expecting, oh God, this is going to happen again. But Captain is smart, and he goes, you know, Hail Hydra, so you can trust me. And so he just walks right on out of the elevator with the Mind Stone scepter. And then this is where he encounters Captain. He's like, oh crap. And Captain kind of gets his butt whooped by his own self. But, and there's a funny part of this scene where, earlier Tony and Scott Lang, Ant-Man, were talking about Captain America's butt and how Tony said, yeah, that suit made your butt look too big or it was too much. And Scott was like, I don't know, Cap. I think that's America's ass. And it's just this running joke of the whole movie. It's so funny. And then when he fights his other self, Captain America's laying face down, and he just looks down, and he's like, that is America's ass. I mean, it's just this whole running joke of the whole movie, and it's been hilarious ever since. So he obviously gets the Mind Stone from them, and this is the point where the Tesseract mission goes awry. So Tony and Cap make the plan to go back in 1970. So they give Scott the Mind Stone and say, hey, take this back, we're gonna go to this. And the whole reason of them going back in time as well was, like I said before, is to get the Pym juice. So because they only have enough Pym juice for all of them to do it one time and do it right, so they had to go back and get more Pym juice to jump back in time. So, the last stone is the Soul Stone. And okay, so I'm just gonna start by saying that, how do you not know? Like, how did you not figure it out? Like, I mean, it's obvious, you know, you got Thanos, who went up there and did the whole Soul Stone thing with Gamora and didn't come back with her. And I mean, you would think that they already know this, being that Nebula is with them. How do you not know that this is gonna? I don't know. But this team is obviously Hawkeye and Black Widow, and this is at the planet Vormir. So obviously we know to get the Soul Stone is the soul for soul. So you have to exchange something that you love to sacrifice in order to get it. So this is a big turning point and moment for Natasha and Clint, because they're best friends. So, you know, it kind of makes sense that they would do this. But yeah, like I said before, my problem with this is, like, why did they not know this now? But I don't know. I guess, you know, to keep the movie going, they had to do something. So I'm just not going to dwell on it too much because, you know, it's pretty upsetting. But so this is beautiful also in a way because it's two best friends trying to sacrifice themselves for each other and for everybody. You know, they know that you only get one shot. You know, you only get one time to do it right. So they're kind of like back and forth trying to say, you know, stopping each other from jumping off the cliff. And it's heart-wrenching, and it's, you know, who would do that? You know, you say that you would take a bullet for your friend, but would you jump off a cliff to save the world for your friend? So, you know, it's a very, very touching and, you know, type thing to do for them. Obviously, Black Widow puts a cord onto Clint as he's jumping off, and he only puts the cord on him, and he's holding her by his hand, and she's just like, let me go, like, let me do this, because in the beginning she kind of states that, you know, her whole life she hasn't had anything, she's never had anyone. This team, this Avengers gave her a family, gave her someone. So she says, let me do this. You know, he has a family that he needs to live for. So she doesn't have anyone to live for. So it's kind of like her thing about it. So she, you know, drops down and, you know, she's gone. She's gone. As we know, it happened with Gamora. So she's gone. Okay, so my thought on this was, originally I thought it was going to be Nebula to do it, simply because she was so upset about Gamora being sacrificed for, you know, from Thanos, that I thought it was going to be the team, was going to be her and War Machine, but the team doesn't support the theory because obviously he and her don't have a connection that like Clint and Natasha do, so it doesn't make sense for that to have happened. But that was just me as the viewer. You know, they were on the same plane, so they got off, and I thought, oh, they were at Vormir, but they weren't. So, yeah. All right, so just a little reminder before we jump back into present time. Nebula 2 is now with the Avengers, coming back present day, because in the Power Stone mission, I think it was, the Power Stone mission, she switched with Nebula 1. So she is now in that. Alright, so Act 3 is the Endgame. So the team returns, minus Natasha and minus Nebula 1, because now it's Nebula 2. They mourn Black Widow briefly, and then they get ready to do the darn thing. They get ready to put the stones together, make the gauntlet, and snap. So during this time, they're doing all this. They're trying to figure out who's going to do it. Well, obviously, the only reason why Thanos is able to do it is because he is a strong being, obviously able to do this. So Hulk is probably the strongest of them all, or who can actually survive something like this. So he's the one that chooses himself to do it, to put on the gauntlet and to unsnap the snap. And when he does this, which he does end up doing it with a bit of trouble at first, but he ends up getting it there and unsnapping it. And, you know, they're like, did it work? And, you know, they're looking outside and birds are chirping, which honestly I don't understand why birds chirping would give you okay that it worked, but, you know, that's my side point. Yeah, it's okay. But the other thing that kind of gives it away is that Clint's wife is calling him on his cell phone. So that's kind of, you know, that it worked. Right as he's answering the phone for her, and Scott Lang goes outside, he's like, you guys, it worked. It shows Nebula 2 as they're doing this whole powering up the gauntlet and snapping thing. Nebula 2 is in the time machine room with the time machine portal, and is trying to bring Thanos through that. Now, when they captured Nebula 1, they took her Pym juice, and Nebula 2 gave it to Thanos in order to be beamed back. How did Nebula 2 come back without the Pym juice? I don't know, but we're just not going to touch on that because, you gotta do what you gotta do. But Nebula 2 ends up bringing Thanos and his army with the Pym juice through the portal. And then just wrecks Avengers headquarters. Just showers on their headquarters. Then there's this epic battle scene with Captain America, Tony, and Thor. Cap, and then, they're going at it with him and getting kind of their butts whooped and everything. And then this is when Thor also kind of like gets it together and is like, okay, let's do this. And you think that he's going to lose the weight throughout this whole movie. I feel like we always thought, oh, he's gonna lose the weight, but he never did, and it was crazy. But he still showed up. And then the most epic kind of like fan service, I guess, is what you could say you could give, is when Captain America uses Millionaire. Thanos is wrecking Thor, like almost about to kill him, almost about to use his own axe against him, and he knocks the hammer out of his hand, and Thor kind of sees out of the corner of his eye that the hammer, moves a little bit and comes and knocks Thanos in the head, and he's like, what happened? And you just show this big scene of Captain America just wielding it, and you're like, everybody's in the movie, they're like, oh yes, this is what we've been waiting for. Because, and I will tell you, I knew that this happened, being that I've read some of the comics, but I had forgot because I had remembered a while back, but I forgot during the movie. And so I was like really excited because I had just remembered. I was like, oh my god. But if you guys remember, in one of the old movies, Captain America goes to pick up Millionaire and moves just a little bit, and Thor's like, whoa. But it's funny because when he does grab the hammer, Thor's like, I knew it, and we're all like, I knew it, like we knew it too, because if anybody is as worthy to wield that, it would be Captain America, because he is just the worthiest. I mean, he's so selfless. He's just a great character. He's the epitome of like what you should be as a whole person. I mean, it's just hard to explain what I'm trying to say, but he if anybody's worthy, he is worthy. And so he's wrecking Thanos with the hammer. He's doing this hammer and shield kind of like combo moves and stuff like that. So this is where, and then he gets, his shield busted because Thanos is also obviously fighting back and all of that. So, and you just kind of see Captain America on the ground and not knowing if he's going to get back up. And I mean, I'm just sitting here thinking like I could do this all day, because that's, his saying. But he kind of just sits there, and this is where I thought he was going to lose. This is where I thought that he was not going to make it. But he kind of like, his shield's all busted up, cracked, and all of this, and he kind of straps it hard. He's not going down without a fight. As we know, the Captain America we know, he's not going down without a fight. So I guess the second most epic scene is when this comes up, because obviously at this point we've kind of almost forgotten that the unsnap has undone everything, because of all this, the fight scene and everything is happening. So you kind of almost forget that they've unsnapped the snap. And Thanos says this thing where he's like, I don't usually give a crap about the planets that I've destroyed when I'm destroying them, but I'm really gonna enjoy doing this. I'm really gonna enjoy just wrecking your planet and killing everyone you love. And it kind of like makes you just really, it really just makes you want them to just kill him again, like destroy him, because of what he's saying. Like, it's just another slap in the face. Like, you've already done this. You've already destroyed all of our people on our planet. So stop. But I'm just going to take a breather here. So, right as, you know, you think he's not going to make it, Cap's not going to make it, because Tony is down and Thor's down. You just think he's not going to make it. And all of a sudden you hear, and I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. You hear Falcon says, "On your left, Cap," or "Cap on your left." And everybody just goes wild. Like, the whole crowd just goes wild. Like, oh my God. Like, I'm getting goosies right now just thinking about it. But everybody is going crazy, dude. And then all you see, you know, Strange doing his portal opening up and everything. And you just see everybody coming out. You see Black Panther with the Wakandans. And then you see Spider-Man come out with Doctor Strange, and then here comes Groot and Star-Lord. I mean, you see all these epic characters, everybody that we've lost in the other movie. You just see them come out, and it's just so satisfying to see all of them come out at the same time. And it's like, oh yeah, you're going down, Thanos. Like, this is it for you. It's your end. Endgame is coming. And so, and this is, I mean, it was just back to back, I guess, comic satisfaction, you know, fan service. Because I have been waiting for this to come. I have been waiting for this particular saying for the whole movies, because as you know, this is what Captain America's phrase is for the whole team, and he says, "Avengers, assemble." And it was also amazing. They just, you know, epic fight scenes. Captain Marvel comes because, you know, they're getting, you know, Thanos knows that they're getting wrecked. At one point, Scarlet Witch, which, you know, I feel like she would have messed him up had it not been for his little fire rain sneaky move type thing, because she really had him there. She really had him. She's, you know, got him trapped, and he brings down the fire. Well, you know, everybody's scattering and running, and at this point you kind of have Clint, who Hawkeye, when the explosion happened, the gauntlet, and then, you know, the team kind of got separated. So Hawkeye has the gauntlet, and Hulk and Ant-Man and Rocket are stuck underneath, you know, some rubble and all that. So Ant-Man obviously helps them. He becomes the big Ant-Man guy. But Hawkeye's kind of running around with the gauntlet. You know, we know he can't do too much with that, so he's just, you know, running around, and Thanos is gonna try to get it. So they're playing this like little hopscotch kind of thing where they pass it off to the next player, next character. For, you know, Black Panther takes it, and then Spider-Man takes it. He's like, "Guys, got it!" And this is one of, you know, my favorite parts too, because I'm a big Spider-Man fan. And I love how he becomes the Iron Spider throughout the whole thing, through the last, you know, the ending of all of that. So, you know, that's just part of, you know, the epic fight scenes. And then, like, he brings the rain down, so it's, you know, kind of messing everything up. And then out of nowhere, which we've been waiting for, obviously she comes just at the right time. Captain Marvel comes and swoops in and just wrecks the whole ship and wrecks everything like she does perfectly. So, and then there's this part where she has to get the stones back to the portal so they can just, you know, throw it in there. And, you know, it doesn't happen. So, or they try to stop her. And there's this epic, you know, badass girl power kind of scene where, she's trying to get it through there, and the people resisting against him, and Thanos is like, you know, "You're not going to get through here. You know, who you going to get through?" And all of the girl characters, superhero characters, come and they say, she's not alone. And it was just epic. It did so much in so many different ways. It gave, the heroes their stories that they needed to kind of like closure, kind of that closing book to everything. It gave the girl, like the girl power type thing for the women of, the Marvel universe. And just a lot of fan service, things that we've been waiting for the past, 11 years, give or take, and the last 22 movies or what have you. We've been waiting for this epic battle. So it was just so much satisfaction for everyone watching. And then there's this fight scene with Captain Marvel and Thanos, and she's trying to put on the gauntlet and snap, and she just takes it right off right as he's about to snap. And then there's this part where he punches her in the face or headbutts her and she doesn't move. Like, it's just awesome. And then he takes the power stone off the gauntlet and uses that to kind of like punch her and slam her and get her down. And then right as he's about to snap one more time, there's a part in the movie during the battle scene where, right when the comrades come out and everything, and right when all of them come out, Doctor Strange and Iron Man kind of meet. As you know, in the other movie, he told him there was a 1 in 14 million chance that they were going to survive. And he asked Doctor Strange, is this it? Is this the one? Is this the 1 in 14 million? And he says, if I tell you, it won't happen, obviously, because that would alter the future, alter the present and the future of what's going to happen if he knew. So, so right as Thanos was about, after he punches Captain Marvel and gets her down, he's about to snap again, and Tony comes up and grabs the gauntlet off, but what he really does is Thanos snaps and it's nothing there. There's no snap, or nothing happens. Obviously, there's a snap, and you just see Tony. He grabbed the stones and put it on his on his own gauntlet.
I hit one.
Because right as Thanos is about to snap, he says, "I am inevitable," which was, what he said when they first chopped his head off in the beginning. He says, this happened because I'm inevitable. And so he kind of then says, I'm inevitable, snaps, but there's nothing there. And then Tony, when he gets the gauntlet, he says, I am Iron Man, and snaps. And, that, as you know, that's what gets it. That's what, kills him off, because obviously he's a human, so he can't withstand all the power of the stones. As we saw in Guardians of the Galaxy, we thought that Peter Quill was not able. Gamora tells him, if you do this, you'll die because you're a human. There's no way you can handle a stone. I mean, just imagine 6 stones versus 1 on a human. But as you find out, Peter is like half human, half, God, I guess. So that's why he was able to hold the stone. That's the reason why they had the Hulk do the snap, because he was physically able, with all the gamma and stuff. So something like that, Tony was not going to survive, and obviously he doesn't. And it's just really touching because, as all of the bad people are disappearing, Thanos just sits down and he just knows this is his time. He knows this is time to go. He just sits, and just kind of like he sits in the beginning or at the end of the Infinity, where he sits in the garden, just disintegrates, disappears away, and that they've won. But then they also don't kind of win at the same time. And Tony's laying there, and Peter comes up, and this really hit me some kind of way, because the dynamic that they've made for Iron Man and Peter, just kind of gets you're invested in this relationship and in these characters. So what happens between them, you kind of feel. And I mean, yes, it's all not real. Yes, it's all not fake. But at the end of the day, why do we go see these movies? Why do we go see any movie? Because we like the way they make us feel, whether it be funny or sad or, you know, adrenaline, you know, just that feeling, and it just is satisfying almost. And I've used that word a lot throughout this whole video, but it really is. That's the best way I can explain it. So you see Peter and you see Tony, and he's, you know, dying, obviously, and Peter's like, you know, we did it, Mr. Stark, we did it, you know, and God, it's just touching because, you know,
I just shot him because he was shooting at us.
The whole reason I feel like that Tony did it was for him. Like, I mean, and not just for him, but, you know, I don't know. But he says, you know, we did it, Mr. Stark, we did it. And then Pepper comes up and she's like, Tony, you know, you can rest. You know, we did it. You can rest. And he gives out. And, you know, it's just crazy to think, but it happened. And
just hug the wall.
So you get this scene where everybody is at their little farm or mountain home, what have you, and they're mourning the death of Tony, and all of them gather, minus Gamora. I noticed that she was not there, but they even brought that kid, and I'm sorry if I don't remember his name right off the top of my head, but the boy from Iron Man 3, he was there, and it was just also so it was satisfying to, you know, see them together without having to be fighting or destroying someone. So, and it's kind of like it's relieving because it started with Tony, and it's ending with Tony. And it's crazy how this one man brought all of these people together, and it is like a part of their lives somehow. So, you know, it's just, it was great. It was great, and it was sad at the same time. So, you know, they're at the funeral and all, and
he's still up there.
Then they realize that they have to put the stones back. And this is Captain and Bucky and Hulk.
Sorry, Brian.
And Sam Wilson, Falcon. Together they're, you know, kind of at the time hop machine, and they say, you know, you got to take the stones back to exactly, and Captain America's the one who obviously is going to do it. So he has to take the stones back to the exact time as to when they took them. And I mean, this should have obviously red flag or red light in your head when they do this exchange between Cap and Bucky, and he says, I'm gonna miss you. And it's kind of like, wait, I mean, as us, we know, but then again, we're asking at the same time, why would you say that when you're coming back in 5 seconds? Because it takes Captain as long as he needs to put the stones back, but in their time, it's only about 5 seconds. So, they count down, and, you know, they get him in there, and they count down, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 to bring him back. Nothing. They do it again. Nothing. And then they just, you know, keep trying to figure out what happened, and then all of a sudden you see Bucky turn, and he said, Sam, look. And on a bench, it was Cap from behind. Walk up to him, and Sam walks up to him, and, you know, it pans around, and he finds out that he's old. He's like maybe 80, 90 years old. And it's, you know, basically, obviously what happened is he didn't come back. He probably obviously destroyed his Pym juice, so he couldn't come back. He wanted to live, you know, his life, because in his mission, he he was supposed to get the well, when they went back to 1970, when they went to go get the Tesseract, he saw, you know, the love of his life. And I forget her name, so sorry that I forgot it, but I did. He sees her, and it's kind of that longing, and that's what I mean when I was talking about before, how they each kind of get their own, like, kind of closure or a piece of their past. And so that was a piece of his past that, you know, as watching these movies, and this is what I mean by Captain America, he is so selfless because he has had all this time taken from him and all of, you know, something that he wasn't even supposed to be a part of, you know, thrown into. He never really got to have that that life, a piece of life is what he says is everybody else got. So that's what I mean by he's so selfless in that, because he gave his whole life for the Avengers. He gave his whole life for this team, and he never really had a chance to live. And I found it really, you know, I can't think of what I'm trying to say right now, but I think it is very commendable, I guess, for lack of a better term, to see him get what he deserves. You know, it is so sad, and I keep saying this, satisfying, relieving to get Cap finally got one. Cap finally got what he was supposed to have, what he deserved to have. So obviously he lived his life, and then it shows at the end that he passes off the shield to Sam. He said, you know, this is now yours. So he's kind of making Sam the new captain. And he sees the ring, and so he asks, you know, are you going to tell me about her? You want to tell me what happened? And he goes, no, I'm not. I don't think I will. Because, you know, that's something that's for him. You know, that's his. And then at the end, obviously, it shows us they finally get that one dance that they've been waiting for so long. And it's satisfying, you know, it's great in itself because, you know, Iron Man got his family. You know, he had his daughter, and he got the chance to live his life. Minus a few other people. Obviously, Clint has a family, so he got to get his family back. So that's a great thing. Thor got to see his mother for another time. And Tony also did get to see his father. And it's like everybody got something besides Captain. Yeah, right. Besides Steve Rogers. Everybody got theirs. And you should kind of saw it coming because, like I said before, he's had all of this time where he's lost. We're not really lost, but he's, you know, given up, sacrificed for the Avengers. And it's just great, you know. And I just love how, you know, Marvel has done this for everybody. All the people who have been invested in this since the beginning. Even if you're not a big comic fan, which I don't, you know, obviously, like I said at the beginning of my video, I don't claim to be this big comic book buff or anything like that. But, you know, it's satisfying for those people, too, who have been invested in it since, you know, the beginning. And it's sad to see it go, but it was just done so beautifully. So great. I wouldn't say beautifully because, you know, but it was awesome. So yeah, that's basically my whole rant of the Endgame. I know I probably left out a lot of stuff or didn't explain it in a way that you probably could understand had you not seen the movie. But like I said from the beginning, if you hadn't seen the movie, you know, probably shouldn't watch the video. But and like I stated before, this is my first YouTube video, so please don't judge too harshly. Even if you do, I'm not going to care because this is the first time I'm doing this, and we'll see how it goes from here. But obviously, if you liked what you saw, hit the like button and subscribe to what's going to be our YouTube channel. If you want to have any suggestions of other things you want me to rant and talk about or review, I'll do that. I am planning on probably doing a Game of Thrones rant. I am a big Game of Thrones fan too. But I feel like that's a whole different ball game. It's going to take a lot longer to do those type of videos. So I will be doing a lot more reviews. I have ideas already, but I just kind of want to see what you guys want to come up with as well. So yeah, that's my rant.